call to order the Parks and Recreation June 4th, 2020 meeting at 6:05. All right. Would everyone like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And hopefully there'll be a flag showing soon. Thank you. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay, and next on our agenda is a public comment, and we have one, so I will read that out.
Roll call first.
Oh, sorry, roll call.
That's
I'm
okay.
skipping things.
Commissioner roll call. Chair Entner.
Here.
Vice Chair Taylor. I think you said here, right? Commissioner Firestone.
Here.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Present.
And Commissioner Duenas.
Here.
All right, thanks, you guys. So public comment. We have one. And it is from Tim Kraut. Okay. It's kind of a public, so I'll read the whole thing. It's to Renee, it's to you. So should you just want me to read the whole thing?
Well, all public comments were supposed to be sent to me.
Okay. All right. Would you please ask the Parks and Recreation Commission if they would recommend to the City Council that pickleball playtime be extended to match the playtime allowable on the tennis courts? The Libby tennis courts are available for play anytime the park is open, which according to the posted signage is 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. As you know, pickleball play has been limited to 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Treating pickleball and tennis differently doesn't seem fair to me. Also, with the weather getting warmer, our play times are right at the hottest times of the day. How is this fair? Thanks for your support, Tim Kraut. So that was our public comment. All right, thank you. Police report would be next, but I don't believe we're having a police report. And then it would be public works report, but we're not going to have that. We do not have a city council liaison report tonight, so we're going to move forward. So next on our agenda is consent items, and item A is our minutes from the March 5th meeting. And did anybody have any changes or comments on the minutes? Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have them in front of me, but I noticed in the liaison report, it mentions a recreation coordinator position, but I believe it should be an events coordinator position for the city.
The exact title is, I don't have it in front of me. It is a coordinator position. It's not an event. It's a different category. It's something else.
Okay.
So I can clarify it on the minutes. I can clarify that and put the exact title. Right,
because I went back to I watched the video of the meeting because I was like, what recreation? And it's clearly described as events coordinator. It's definitely not recreation coordinator.
It has the word also in it for communications, doing some postings, and I forgot the terminology, so I can definitely correct that.
It should be clarified, yeah.
Okay.
And then kind of a side comment, when I went to go watch the video, I tried to access it through the city's web, and the link for the March meeting actually points to the February meeting. So that's, I guess, an IT comment. I don't know who to relay that to.
Yeah.
But I was able to find the March meeting on YouTube. So the link is just pointing to the wrong one. Okay,
so the only correction to the minutes is for the one title of the specialist or the coordinator position.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to pass the minutes if you guys are ready.
I'll move to approve the minutes with that one change.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, guys. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. All right. So the consent items are done. So we're on to item 8, presentations, action, and discussion items. And the first item is COVID-19 strategies on future recreation programming. And Renee is going to present on that.
So this would be the first attachment that you have for all the sample plans for COVID. And we're just going to review a little bit about the state, the county, and what the recreation plans are. They are only drafts of a plan. And so the idea was for you just to look it over and listen to the summary. And if you have any thoughts to it, to please express your suggestions, concerns, anything. So we'll start with the one that's, it's actually it's titled the Honorable Recreation Commission. And it's, I'll summarize it. The state of California and Ventura County continue to restrict the type of businesses and facilities that can be open, including public recreation facilities. The city of Ojai continues to provide access to information regarding city services and operations for all the departments. Park maintenance staff is continuing to maintain park grounds, public restrooms, parking lots, and other services. The parking lots now at Sarzati Park and the other parking lots are now open. Public bathrooms and drinking fountains. The bathrooms have been open at Libby Park, and drinking fountains are cleaned daily. And so there's more information about disinfectant procedures in that sentence. The playgrounds and skate park remain closed. On the county orders, you'll see, if you look up on VC Emergency, you'll see that the skate parks are listed as closed. Regarding the city, the sidewalks, pathways, trails, tracks, public parks remain open, and people walk through the parks. The Parks and Recreation Program, this report tonight is on how we're going to reopen safely or what the plans are. Again, it's only a draft of a plan. The city plans on providing opportunities for residents to participate in recreational activities, obviously responsibly, and to go through a process that's gradual. And of course, it's dependent on the state and county orders. This report talks about special events, and Ojai, the open house that's done every year is going to be canceled. A big part of the open house that we do combines awards with AYSO with their five-a-side program, and they have canceled their program. So, everybody is just at a standstill right now. Staff is constant communication with Sterling events, and some of the concerts have already canceled. The last page of this report is the reopening plans. And the county requires all businesses go into, hi, Susie.
Hi.
When you go into stay at home, again on VC Emergency, you'll see that it talks about it discusses how all businesses have to apply to reopen. And when you go into that site, it asks you for a prevention plan and another documentation about what kind of business that you are. And that has to be submitted to the county. So far, when we've had, there's a couple of our contractors that work for they do other things for like Ventura, Moore Park, other things. So they've already gone through the process. And the response from the county when you turn in the paperwork, it doesn't say anything about approval. It just says, thank you for submitting your paperwork. In other descriptions, going onto the county website, it talks about spot inspections, not giving you warnings, just coming to inspect facilities that have applied for reopening. So that's just a little history about what the county is requiring right now. It has nothing to do with whether they can perform any activities in the city of Ojai. It just asks all businesses to turn in a prevention plan and other information. So in this report, you have 3 attachments. The first one is a memorandum, and again, it's a draft, and it just talks about 3 phases of how the Recreation Department could open. So it talks about preventative measures and training the staff. Currently, right now, where we have a hiring freeze, our part-time employees are part of that freeze. They're not working as of right now, and it's only one recreation assistant, VP, and then myself that are operating the department. So again, it talks about training. It talks about just Vicki and I opening up the doors. It talks about how we're going to keep people. Registration's only done online. People are outside. The second phase is once we actually open, then we have to decide what kind of programs are happening and what kind of other stuff possibly would be involved. And that goes through stages 2 and 3. And it talks about disinfecting, distancing again, how we're going to mark off areas. It's just a draft, and I'll only start with that memorandum first before moving on. It talks about first aid, PPE, personal protection equipment, and it talks about health screenings and stuff like that. So the other reports get a lot more detail with regards to participants. So for right now, do you have any comments on the very first attachment? I would address that to the commissioners. Do you have any comments at all?
I do not.
No, thank you.
Okay, the attachment B that you see, that is a day camp, which means specialty camps. All day camp, reopening guidelines. And it's a very lengthy document that I wrote, but obviously it talks about, again, sanitizing efforts. It talks about how we're going to keep the kids separated, whether it's indoors. It talks about outdoors. It talks about carrying kits, PPE, pre-camp training, even resting stations if somebody were to not feel well all of a sudden and we want them separated. It talks about how if we were able to have camps and if it was 6 or 8 or 12, how parents would drop off. So it talks about drop off and pickup and even going back home and how sanitizing efforts that we would make before they even leave the facility. So basically that's under transfer of guardianship. Safety data sheets. It talks about our hand washing facilities, isolation efforts, our ratios between campers and kids. Again, this is all depending on what the orders actually end up. Again, whether it be 6, 12, 10, it could be more than that. It could be less than that. It could never happen. I can tell you right now that the reason that I sent you the other 2 documents, the update on California pandemic roadmap, was so that you could see the different phases of where the governor is going. And it is all dependent on how many cases and what appears and how safe it is to open. And that's why I sent you that plan. And then I also sent you a plan, the county plan, so that you could read into that. It tells you that golf courses are open, but only 4 people playing. And so far, I did take a survey. Nobody's offering, nobody as of today is offering rec programs. There is some discussion next week, but what I wanted to tell you on this resilience plan is that we have been allowing, like YMCA Ventura they have a daycare program, but what I'm getting to is that the governor's already said 12 for like daycare. So we have no idea where it's going to end up when they start talking about any services from recreation. When recreation, departments are allowed to open when city, so that has to do a little bit about isolation and like ratios and stuff. Registration procedures, check-in and out procedures is on here. Again, there's going to be only online. And all of this coincides with the CDC. They don't want any cash transactions. They want everything to be through like phone, credit card. It talks about health screening. It talks about facial coverings, especially with staff. And it goes through equipment requirements, staffing requirements, discouraging anybody leaving the facility for anything so that we can keep with the same participants with the same staff for that one day. And management of participant requirements, cleaning again, sanitization, and it breaks it up into like the different facilities, the gymnasium, what we're going to do, the multipurpose room, the art room. So it's pretty specific. And that's the second part. Promise, we only have one more to go through. Do you have any comments about that, the draft for attachment B?
Does anybody have questions?
I'll save mine for the end. It's kind of hard for me to keep them all separate.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Quickly, would you just also for the public explain which phase we're in and what phase you're thinking this will be in, just for people who haven't read more information?
Well, I definitely don't want to stipulate and make any of my own personal opinions. So that would be my one comment. Regarding stages, it's really hard. The county, I sent 4 questions to the county the other day. I emailed on Monday and I haven't gotten any reply, just for any kind of clarification of, okay, so if tennis is playing now one-on-one, would a one-on-one private lesson be allowed? Whether it be tennis, whether it be kung fu, whether it be anything. It's clear to some things, but it doesn't really hit the hospitality yet. And when you look at the governors, when you look at that resilience plan, which is the pandemic roadmap, you'll see in there that it looks like we're kind of in stage 2 and 3, Ventura County. Like we're in the beginning of stage 2, but yet we just opened salons, which is in this plan for stage 3. So it would be up to you to, your opinion on reading both these documents to figure out really where we are.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
It does look like special events like music concerts are happening in stage 4, which would be when there's, according to this pandemic report, where there's no threat anymore. All right, and then the last one is attachment C. And this is just a draft again, and it's just to give you ideas, and it's all a guessing game. When this was written, there was some talk about maybe outdoor camps would be easier to approve than indoor. But I do have some indoor programming on here too, and you can see that as the asterisks on here. So we have golf camp. We have everything that we wanted in the summer, but well, not everything. The ones that we could keep social distancing, the ones, but all of them address smaller ratios if it becomes possible to even hold these. So we talk about golf camp and cheer and dance, that would be an indoor one. Fencing, she's fine with going outside. Messy Goop is outside. Most of these are outside. Chorus programs, yoga could be outside, but it depends again on, they're all in the morning. They're from 9 to 12. It gets too hot in the afternoon to do anything if you're going to do it outside. Of course, it has tennis on here, gymnastics, and it has a few adult programs. So again, this is just a draft, and we'll be able to get more into the planning once we find out like what we're allowed to do. But at least the drafts of the plans are here so that when the county and then the city approves go, we can go. I've been in touch with all the contractors. I know who's willing to come back, who's not during these times. Staff is a big issue, but luckily our summer programs, most of it's done by contractors. We only have a few that are staff. And of course the day camp is a big issue, but we're not going to need tons of staff if we're only allowed to have like 12. And that's about it. See, it wasn't that bad. Right?
Thank you. Thank you. No, I think that's a great framework, and I appreciate all the work you've done. And it definitely sets us up to be ready to go when the time comes, whenever that is. So I open it up to questions. Does anybody have questions, comments?
Yeah, I had some. First of all, thank you for sharing all this. It was very informative. And I know you're just, like you said, it's all kind of contingency planning at this point. I guess like some specifics. One was I noticed like the arts and crafts room was kind of designated as like a sick holding room. I was wondering what happens if multiple people don't
Can't
feel well.
figure out how to do it.
Probably put them
I
outside.
don't really want to do video. There we go.
Oh, you were there for a second, Susie. We can do outdoor stations.
Okay. Then as far as these plans sound good to me. I'm no expert in any of this. So if the county and the city say go ahead, who kind of approves the specific plans for the rec department?
The city would.
Okay. And so you'd submit this document like we
The
saw.
manager's office would review the plans, and
Okay.
also they would review it with our city attorney.
Right.
And we've already consulted with our insurance people to
Okay.
make any modifications to our registration page or our waiver.
Mhm.
So I would say all three of those
Okay.
resources.
Mhm. That sounds good.
Good
It
question.
was, it's reassuring to see that contractors are willing to provide programming. I think now more than ever, kids need it, need to get out and do stuff and be around other people to the extent that they can. So it's nice to see that, that might be an option.
I would say it's more of the indoor contractors that can outdoor, they've said no. And
Right.
that's also why most of it's geared towards outside.
And so that was my next question, was about the specifically the dance one at the Starlight Academy. That just seems like a pretty tight space to have kids moving a lot and maybe cheering, things like that.
It's a group studio, and you're right. Normally she has like 25, 30 kids in that program, but they were going to have to go to whatever the requirement is for the county. So that might be only 6, 8,
Right.
10, or 12. And she's all ready. She's just so excited. Most of these people are just so excited to get back there, and without raising their prices. We've talked about that as well. But the numbers will be low. There also has to be, and my report shows there has to be, it comes from the CDC, it has to be adequate amount of ventilation in an indoor facility, which is something that I was going to mention, but I can mention in here. I was going to mention in capital improvements, but the gymnasium years ago, the gymnasium has extractor fans in the ceilings, and they just haven't worked. And now Public Works they've been so diligent this week, and one of them is working, and there's 4. And so we're going to get those working so that I know, look at Raquel.
Raquel's excited.
If we're able to open, then you actually have ventilation in there. So we don't know what the governor's going to ask, but that is one of the things from the CDC that I put into my plan. And so the city's working together, and Public Works has already started on it.
Okay.
And how about the other rooms, the art room?
Art room we're not going to use because that's multi-purpose room. The CDC, the requirements, I mean, it's not requirements, they're guidelines. So they asked to open up the doors and ventilate in the morning hours whenever we can before it gets super hot, and then to have the fan running or the air conditioning, whatever it is, so that you get adequate flow. And we're able to do that multi-purpose room, and the rest of the offices here that's the Boyd Center, no problem.
Great. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Go ahead, Raquel.
I have a question, and it's like super random. But when it comes to day camps, I know that drop-ins are like a really big thing on a daily basis. So is that still allowed, or is it only online?
It will be only online, and they'll have to do it by week.
Okay.
They won't be able to go in and out. And that's for the consistency, for the guidelines. We're pretty sure that's where it's going to move towards, that they want the same kids, the same staff, and they won't be able to just drop in and out. And so, I mean, a weekly basis is not that bad.
Okay.
Good question.
Renee, you'd mentioned that we might alter the waivers. Can you expand upon that a little bit to see? I mean, I know we're kind of bound under the guidelines of CDC as well as the county, but if there are groups or people that are willing to take the risk of being a little more cramped, is that a possibility to add more people to classes than say the 12?
It will be all contingent on what the county tells us. We have to stay with those, whatever they tell us. So like right now with an essential daycare, they say 12. So if you stay with 12, you're going to be in one room. You can do 12, another 12, but you have to have another building. You have to be in a different room. You can't see each other. They can't pass each other. You have to have designated bathrooms. And that's also listed in my report on how we would do it. So with an all-day day camp. I think the specialty camps are going to be a lot easier to run than an all-day day camp, especially being outdoors. But I have a plan for an indoor camp, and I have a daily plan every hour on what we would do and how it would be structured. So the answer to your question is we have to stay with the guidelines. And if we do have another 12 let's say it is 12, and then we have another 12 on a wait list, we would need an additional 2 more staff, and then we'd need to make sure that we separate them in the building. So it becomes a little bit trickier when doing that. And we don't have a way to separate the multi-purpose room.
To dovetail on that, has any class just outright said, it's not worth my while to have that few students, just canceled outright?
Not for that reason. They've canceled because they don't feel it's safe. Is
there going to be a list of that?
Sorry?
Is there going to be a list of canceled, or confirmed 100% canceled programs?
There will be an advertisement for the ones that we're going to go towards.
Got it. Okay.
That we're going to go forward with. So the recreation program guide is obviously not going to happen, but luckily we have access to a very large database of our activity registration software program. And we have other resources through cable channels and Facebook and this and that to be able to advertise. And every day we get calls, and we always, Vicki and I are the ones that are channeling the calls, and we'll always ask the patron, have you signed up with us before currently? Are you on our and they're like, oh yeah, we're on your registration software, and they know to look for it. We always encourage them just to call us. So they will get the notification of the camps when they go out. This list that I have of programs, not just camps, but they're also the instructors that want to teach are, I don't know, probably around, I haven't counted them. They're probably approximately around 20. But luckily during the summer, some of the indoor programs that we have normally, they don't run during the summer anyway. So the timing of it is okay.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, Renee, you had mentioned that the contractors that listed that we're willing to do it at the same prices as before. That's amazing. That's great. It just seems like there's a lot of extra cost involved in like cleaning and staff to student ratios, things like that. Have you thought like for the rec department camps, like what that would cost more, like in staffing to do all that extra stuff?
Well, let me clarify. I want to back up a little bit. Not all of the instructors, and nobody so far has said, none of my contractors has said we're going to have to up the price. There are a couple of contracts that have material fees, and I do need to point that out to them. They're very little though. They're anywhere from like $8 to $20, but they may have to incorporate it in the price. And you're right. All of a sudden their 20-person camp or 10-person or 9-person goes down to 3, or 6 or 8. So they may at that point, right now they're just saying that, but I don't have it committed in writing.
Yeah.
So,
plus they're committing to a lot of sanitizing and
Right.
other stuff that takes time and resources. And
right. And as for the answer to your question for all day camp, we've always charged on a ratio between counselors. So it's always on a 10-to-1 ratio. And anything under 10, you always have to have, because of liability reasons, you have to have 2 staff. You can't be alone with the children. So, and you need somebody to go to the restroom and this and that. So it's always working on a 2-to-10 ratio or on a 1-to-10 ratio. And even though we may have less kids if we have a summer camp this year, we'll stay with those ratios, which will still, it should be the same price. But I really don't want to commit to anything. It would be up to administration to approve what it is that we're going to charge for summer camp.
Yeah. And then any thoughts about like the extra staffing that would be required to do all of the sanitizing?
So that's just bringing in a part-time staff person back and dedicating them to that and moving that person. We have a part-time maintenance staff that also runs surf camp and everything, but we're not going to we're probably not going to be using vans. I know a lot of other businesses around Ojai, who depend on vans, they're waiting to see what that order is going to be. And it would be, if we had to do social distancing in a van, it would be like 3 people taking out, you take out 2 seats in the vans, and you only are left with like 3 people and a counselor and a driver. So most likely we're not going to be able to use the van. So that frees up that person to help us with sanitizing. So I've already thought about that.
Yeah, I did notice with the surf camp, that was one of the notes I had down, is how do you social distance when you're transportation. So that one you might be able to run if the kids got dropped off down there, but maybe not if you're having to transport them.
Yeah, there was a parent that called yesterday about that, and I pointed that out to her, and she was really nice. She actually had 2 calls, and one didn't comment, and the other one was like, "Oh, okay, well that would make sense." But we do have a lot of competition in the area with surf camps at that point. Mm-hmm. So we're not really, with contractors, it's easier because no matter how many people they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we're still making a percentage of whatever they bring in. When you have an employee run camp, it's a little bit different. And our surf camp is employee run. So we'll have to, but I want you to keep in mind that the first draft of the summer brochure, we don't stay consistent from year to year with prices of camps. It depends on like who the instructors are, if they threaten us to leave and go, and then we decide, do we want to go with a contractor instead, or is it still worth it? They know the public, they've been there forever. And we definitely don't want to lose money. So the budget with expenditures versus, revenue we want to still stay even and not be in the hole with the programs.
I may have missed it, but is there anywhere where we discuss if you are having a camp, a contractor camp, or one of our own, and someone does come down with COVID, and that, do we refund the money? Do we have a policy for that? How will we deal with that if it's partway through?
We would refund.
Okay, I figured, but I just didn't see it anywhere.
It was our own camps, and yes, the contractor, because of these times, the contractors are going to have to. Usually, we do have a 2-day for a weekday camp. For a specialty camp, because usually we have wait lists, and if somebody cancels out because they're sick or they break an arm, we always make accommodations for that.
I just mean because you basically will need to dismiss the whole group with that. I mean, if you have one person come down with COVID, the policy I understand now is that everyone else then would go for social distancing.
The entire camp and get refunds for that. And
okay,
that would be one of the things that the contractors, would have to agree upon. So there'll probably be an addendum to their contract that's already currently in place to address these things.
And then I guess the only other question is face coverings for anything indoor, because right now that's the current policy of the city. So as long as that city policy is in place, we'll be holding everyone to that.
Right. That will be up to the city to decide whatever, when the order comes that we can do programs. I'm sure that the county will give us more advice and the city will make the decision. Do they want to say it? Does it then become an essential business? Does everybody wear masks? Do the kids exercising outside? Do people tennis lessons outside have to wear masks? And we're all hoping that will be in the next county order for them to say, is 6 foot distancing enough, or do they require the participants as well as the staff to wear masks outdoors and indoors? We hope that it will address that. And even if the county addresses that, the city will be able to make their own choice on that matter. And that will be another thing that will go into the addendum of the contracts that are already in place.
As far as the, so if the contractor's seen this draft of the expectations that is attachment B?
No, because there's right now the contractors need to apply, and they need to submit their paperwork in with the county. And so as soon as, we haven't even we're not at that point to even request to do it. Okay. The only contractors that are getting to that point are ones that are doing stuff for other counties, and they know to be prepared. So right now we don't have that type of contact with them right now. I don't want to get their hopes up.
Fair enough. And so what they're doing anyway, even to prepare to work with the county, is already putting most of this together in the plan that the county requires for opening.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from anyone? Or comments? Okay. I think it's a lot of information here. Thank you. I mean, I have questions on various things, but I think those details come later. This was super helpful, and you laid out all kinds of and answered most of the questions I had, and Ryan, others had good questions. So I think this is a great start. Keep up the good work. I know it's a moving target, so it's got to be frustrating, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to move on to item B, is that okay?
Yes, please move on to item B, since that's you're covering that.
I did apply for a tennis grant for $3,500 through USTA, and we received it. They got back to me within 5 days, and so we're ordering $3,500 worth of it was granted to any kind of equipment that was tennis related and COVID related. So right now, as I'm pretty sure you're aware, we have hand sanitizing stations that we're renting at Libby Park, and those are quite expensive. So I was able to take May and June invoices and put that towards the grant, which was a total of almost $1,200. And then I got together with Scott, and even though it is the city's equipment, but we wanted to help the community out by buying tennis balls, because USTA is recommending minimum of 6 balls out on the court during those lessons for every kid, every teen, every adult. So we're trying to, we ordered a lot of balls. We got the tube holders that go down and they pick up the balls. Ojai has never had a large ball mower, so we ordered one of those. Court sign holders were a big thing, and it was on USTA's signage was on USTA's list for items that could be approved to purchase. Because right now I'm making signs and I'm putting them on each tennis court with zip ties, and it looks tacky. So now we'll have some nice holders to put our signs in, and it will take a lot less staff time to put them up. They have these UV disinfecting wands, which are really cool. They look like a lightsaber, and you just scan it over an item, like over a tennis racket, or it's supposed to be 99% like disinfectant. So we'll see how those work. And then I also got hand sanitizing units to try them out at the courts to see if they don't get vandalized and the sun doesn't eat it up inside its case with the heat that's here in Ojai, then, there's a possibility someday maybe we could get rid of the cost of the rentals. So it's thinking ahead, and it's $3,500. So
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. That's exciting. And the ordering of the balls and the ball mow and all that is in preparation for when we can do lessons. Okay.
Correct. But we'll have it for the future. And USTA was very generous. And I actually got an email from USTA. I also got an email from Scott Burton. So yeah. So it's nice that we can anything going towards COVID efforts is great.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that together. Okay. Any other comments, questions from commissioners? Okay. Then we are on to item C, which is update on the capital project lists for 2019 through 2023. And that should be in the packet that you printed out.
Yeah, and it's not too long. I just wanted to point out on page 2 of 5, if you're looking at it, there's really 2 items for 2021. I thought you'd like to look at more immediately. It has the light poles in it, which we've been in discussions. I know that Greg is still working, on the project. And then, of course, the outdoor basketball, futsal courts, the sports court is still on there. And those are the 2 items. And then with the work order that Public Works is helping us out with to get those fans back working again in the gym, gives us some future items to look at.
And I just wanted to comment on having watched the previous city council meeting when they were discussing the sports courts. It is important to note that is conditional upon the funding is none of it is it's not general fund money. It is the civic association money, and then hoping that there is a portion of, help me out here, Renee, which special fund is it from? Do you remember? I have it written down, but not in this room. So that I didn't quite understand that none of it was intended to be general fund money. So that budget is waiting on funding from some, I believe, state grant or monies that are out there that they're hoping. So they've applied to get for that particular project. So we'll see how that goes, but that's not a certainty.
We could ask the next meeting, I'm sure we could get some information from Greg on that.
Yeah, I had it. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my notes in here. But that I was in watching that part, I was not totally clear that there wasn't general fund money allocated toward that project. So, but and I know that the light poles are coming in. It's turning out to be a much more expensive project than expected. Is that? Yeah. Would you agree, Renee?
Well, I wasn't involved in the first stages, and like you, I don't have the multi-court use project in front of me.
Yeah,
I think all those details are on there, maybe where the funding, and I think I know what grant you're talking about, but I would yeah, I would rather defer that to and get the right answers from at the next.
Right.
Next.
But the light poles are coming in much more expensive than anticipated, correct?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that happens naturally.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to note for everyone. So if they were looking at the numbers and noting that it is significantly different than what we had looked at before, it's based on bids that have come in and estimates to get the work done.
Have you been comparing them?
I just I had an old one, and the cost is going to be greater than what I had seen before. But I know that those were estimates before they went to bid. So just
Right. Right.
any questions or comments from anyone?
So are the light poles, is that project lined up, or it's still getting bids, or what's the status of it?
I don't have the information on that right now. I know that they're still working on it.
Okay. I think I mention this every time it comes up, but LED technology is improving, and I know it's been ruled out in the past as not being an option for the configuration of poles we have. But if we're still getting prices, I think that's worth asking about if that's an option.
They have gotten bids already. They've received their bids, but I think it is evolving. But the understanding I have is that to do that, we couldn't keep our fields as wide open as they are. We'd have to have poles inside of what is now open areas to get the same amount of light.
Right. So I think that has to do with the density of light you can get in a light bulb, right? But that information I think is from a few years ago, and it'd be nice to confirm that that's still the case now.
Would you like that to be an agenda item next time, or just a report with Greg's report?
I think it'd just be a report. I don't know that. I'm just asking that they ask about it.
I mean, they did. We met on it. I know there's another. There are a couple of other matters with LED that the city had and IT had, and so they did discuss LED. It did come into the picture.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe it'd be good to then kind of report back to us, because it seems like in this day and age, if we're not putting in LED lights, there should be a pretty good explanation available.
Okay, I can get that next meeting, no problem.
So maybe at the same time, just Greg could give us a report also on the funding sources for the multi-sport courts.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So we have finished C, and we are on to information items, which is the recreation report. So back to Renee. If you have anything left to report.
I know, right? I think the one thing I did want to mention, if you haven't checked out our website, we have a virtual page set up. So I would encourage you to go on and check it out. We have our volunteers are doing videos on cooking and stretching, and they're really short 3 to 5 minute videos, and we're trying to get them out every week. We only have 4 volunteers that have really been helping us. And it's school time right now and finals, and it's extremely difficult time, but we appreciate anything that they can do. So check, and it gives you some suggestions, ideas. It gives parents to do, like Zooming a Monopoly game, and some ideas to do indoors and outdoors. We started that page like 3 weeks ago. So I'd invite you to check that out. And the other thing I want to mention is the meeting that we have in August. The joint meeting has been suspended or postponed. So you'll get for future information about that. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. So then, any reports or comments from commissioners? All right.
Oh.
Go ahead, Brian.
But this is a question, and I'm not sure the appropriate time for it, but any response, if we can respond to the public comment.
Yeah, because item C of the informational items is pickleball. So
Okay.
pull that in, Sage.
Oh, that actually isn't on this agenda. It
Oh.
just says recreation report on the most up-to-date agenda.
So the pickleball report, I don't have any report other than what the comment was from Tim, that just to let you know what's happening out there. So I don't remember I think the hours are 9:30 to 11:30 and
I
5
can look it up. Hold on a second.
Right.
And I think those are the hours. So they have limited hours. And then for social distancing, which is very similar to the other cities with pickleball, they have blocked off 2 courts so that diagonally they run and they're separated from each other. But they are still able to play, one teams, but they're separated. And there's single play. No, there is only single play. And I think what Tim's asking, I don't know if you want to repeat the comment, but so basically my update for pickleball is that it's just really to notify you, to let you know that we have restricted hours and restricted play. And also just like tennis, it's supposed to be a one-on-one. There's not supposed to be any double play right now, which could change tomorrow, change next week.
Raquel, did you have a comment?
Yeah, sorry, I got so used to raising my hand like I'm in class. Is there a reason why there's restricted hours on pickleball? Because I kind of came in the middle of it all, and I wasn't there when they picked the hours.
That there's been discussions about it. City Council has put together the recommendations for those hours. I believe it came up as it may be coming up as a discussion item, or was discussed briefly at a council meeting. And then Tim's comment was they are now 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And his request is that those hours are the same as the tennis hours, which
Well, I think he's asking to modify them so that it's not, because right now it's playing in the heat.
Heat of the day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just wondering why City Council decided to make their hours restricted instead of all day in the first place.
Right.
Noise, I would guess that's been the issue. And so, I mean, we can't make like Tim is requesting that we make a recommendation to the City Council, but it wasn't on our agenda. So we can't do that. And if we wait another month to do that, it's just like a long process. Like summer's going to be over before.
What we can do is we can forward his comments on.
That's what I was going to request.
Yeah, we can forward. Renee, would you forward that comment on to City Council?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. That's good. So it doesn't just get stopped here. And
I will forward it to the city manager.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Would you like me, when I forward it to the city manager in that correspondence, to say that you are requesting that it be brought to the council? The comment?
I think the city council needs to make a more timely decision on that particular request. It just seems silly to put it on agenda for next. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't serve the public in any way.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. So item 11 is future agenda items. And what I would say is that, again, you'll update us next month on the status of COVID-19 openings and where we are, again, hopefully. And then an update from Public Works on the funding for the sport courts and the possibilities of LEDs and what might have been, were they considered, and if they were decided against, what were the reasons? Any other future agenda items from any other commissioners?
Should we put pickleball on?
I thought that we asked a while ago for that to be a standing topic until it kind of was up and operating. For some reason, I thought that we were wanting regular updates on that.
Yes, regular updates. I think what we did is we said as soon as council was ready to ask us, send it back for our feedback, that we would do that, and updates, we can keep it in the update section.
I'm concerned that if we've gotten this request and we're forwarding it on city council, but if nothing happens, then and we don't have it on our agenda, then there's another month that goes by that we couldn't do anything.
So the general consensus of people would like pickleball on there for next month. Okay.
Yeah, I think specifically Tim's comments.
So specifically hours.
Right.
Hours of use. Okay. All right. Any other items for future agenda items? All right. Then we're good, and we're adjourning in record time. Less than an hour almost. So the Parks and Recreation meeting of June 4th, 2020 is adjourned at 7:02. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.